In recent years, more than 900 libraries have closed across the UK. In 2010, there were 3,893 council-run public libraries in the country, and today there are 2,604. That's a fall of 33%, or for all you stats nerds, 2.3% per year on average. Another 44 years of this, and we'll have nothing left, Phil! Out of those remaining, 317 of the UK's libraries are now run by community groups or volunteers. In Croydon, where I'm from, the council recently decided to close 4 public libraries: Shirley, Broad Green, Sanderstead, and also here, Bradmore Green, where I enjoyed spending time as an inquisitive little un. All 4 of these libraries closed on November 8th for the last time. That leaves Croydon with just 9 libraries for a borough of some 400,000 people. A lot of them were over there shouting at me, apparently. So, why are 4 libraries closing in Croydon and many hundreds more across the country? This is a story involving a UK library service that didn't have enough money to buy any books, no one's favourite rock band, the Manic Street Preachers, and a council with 25 people earning £3.2 million a year between them that offered £10,000 a year to a community group to run a library. Join us, Cronks Watch, as we talk loudly in a quiet space by asking, where have all our public libraries gone? I have fond memories of libraries growing up. Before my outward love of reading was tempered by Snakebite Blacks and League of Legends, I was a voracious reader. I played a poetry gig with the great John Agard, by the way, at a library in Derby. I've worked at my local library when thieves stole a copper from my internet substation wires twice. I used to visit Croydon Library to rent DVDs with my dad, which is showing my age there. It might not be a public library, but I even miss my old uni library, despite it being about as homely as an airport departure lounge. Croydon Council says closing the 4 libraries is a cost-cutting measure to help manage its £1.4 billion debt pile. Running a library costs an estimated £100,000 a year, which, as Croydon South MP and Mayor Jason Perry's best mate Chris Philp recently said, is a drop in the ocean compared to Croydon's debts. Coincidentally, the council also this year added another £100,000 a year salary executive role to its board. Coincidentally. They also said that keeping the libraries open wasn't sustainable because they were understaffed due to lack of investment. Where have we heard that one before? So, having read about this story over the last 4 years, growing gradually less optimistic that they will remain open, I had to make a video about it. However, finding out exactly when these 4 libraries were first listed for closure was about as long and complicated as a dusty John Grisham hardback. From 2013, Croydon Council's public library service was run in collaboration with contractor Carillion, who careened carelessly into compulsory administration in 2018. In January that year, they handed control of the library service back over to the council. In 2019, Croydon South MP Chris Philp complained that the then Labour-run Croydon Council was planning on cutting these 4 libraries. However, the council said the plans weren't meant to be revealed and would leak to the press, and that they wouldn't actually be doing it. 5 years later, after several expensive consultant-led reports into the matter, all 4 libraries are now closed. Croydon Council first publicly proposed closing the 4 libraries in January 2024, but this council cabinet asset report seems to suggest that they were already on the chopping block in 2022.
With a requirement to deliver more services for less, the council also needs to look at some of its assets currently used to deliver services to see whether an acceptable service can be delivered from less locations. One of the key areas for consideration is focused around libraries. Whilst the council has a statutory duty to provide a suitable library provision, the nature of delivery, including the possibility of different delivery methods and shared use as hubs, may be required moving forward to deliver further savings. Depending on the nature of these changes, further consultation could be necessary, and this would need to be factored into any delivery timescales.
During the last 6 years, promises were made by the council to refurbish all 13 of Croydon's libraries, but only 2 of them actually finished. This is reflective of a sad status nationally. Despite a 71% increase in use, in some places bringing this above pre-pandemic levels, hundreds of libraries are still closing across the country. 180 of them have closed in the last 8 years, and another 950 have had their hours cut. more than 300 have gone over to community-run leadership. In 2023, Northern Ireland's library service, in charge of 93 sake, again.
It happened again.
In 2023, Northern Ireland's library service, in charge of 92 public libraries, ran out of money to buy new books. The previous Conservative government generously handed them out £1 million to solve the problem. But no £1 million was forthcoming in Croydon to save 4 of our public libraries. Recently, I had a chat with a top bloke who recognised me from the channel and bought me a coffee. Shout out you if you're watching. While we were talking, he asked if I was working on anything at the moment, and I said I was writing a video about the library closures. He then asked, oh wow, does anyone even use those anymore? Which got me thinking, 1, was that true? And 2, shock horror, would anyone care about this video? So I looked it up. And the things that I found were actually quite surprising. One of Croydon Council's own expensive 100-page reports into the matter found that 66% of Croydon residents surveyed were in favour of keeping the 4 libraries open. That rose to 97% when it was users of the libraries in question that were asked. Some respondents said that they didn't use any of the libraries but were heavily in favour of keeping them open. However, the report said that this meant that potentially the 4 libraries were overrepresented in the data compared to their actual use. It's as if they think that people who want libraries to remain open but don't actually use them shouldn't be considered in the debate. Outside of Croydon, the UK has plenty of famous and enthusiastic public library champions. Former Children's Laureate and beloved meme man
Nice.
Michael Rosen has been vocal about his support for libraries.
And so when you hear these figures that we've got this morning, this BBC investigation saying nearly 200 council-run libraries...
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
No one's favourite Welsh rockers, the Manic Street Preachers, wrote a 1996 UK #2 hit, Designed for Life, which featured the opening line, "Libraries gave us power."
Libraries gave us power.
The band's lyricist and bassist Nicky Wire has regularly campaigned against the closure of libraries, but not very successfully. He also wrote this awfully eloquent Guardian piece on the matter a few years ago.
Along with the NHS and the BBC, our libraries are some of the few truly remarkable British institutions left. So often absolutely ordinary in appearance, a good library should offer escape routes down the most extraordinary avenues, pathways into different worlds from the ones you've left outside. Ridding our villages, towns and cities of libraries, which are essential in shaping a nation's consciousness, seems like a direct attack on the soul of the country.
So, are these ageing rock stars and pontificating poets, and even the people themselves, out of touch with modern Britain's needs? Modern Britain's. Are these ageing rock stars and pontificating poets out of touch with modern Britain's needs? Or do we really still need what libraries have to offer?
Well, the answer is resoundingly the latter. The government says some 13.7 million people use libraries across the UK in 2023. This study by the University of East Anglia found that on average, each UK public library can create about £1 million in economic value per year. Across the UK, that equates to about £1.36 billion in value from libraries every year. For example, consider the completely free rhyme time courses offered at most Croydon libraries. To take 2 children to an equivalent private nursery rhyme themed creche every week for 6 weeks will cost you around £300. Multiply that by the dozens of kids that attend each session at each library across Croydon, and you can see that libraries are offering some serious economic value for free. The report also said that researchers spoke to hundreds of people who use libraries for their digital services on the regular, such as printing or scanning documents, applying for jobs, or accessing the internet when they don't have it at home. That same study or report or whatever actually made me sad, because it also said that on average 2 people an hour visit a UK library because they are lonely, which is an interesting point, because how do you, and more importantly, why would you quantify something like that? We all know that 2 people per hour is too much, or not enough for Croydon Council apparently, which, being London's unhappiest borough, probably has more than a few people per library feeling miserable and depressed.
The facts are, libraries offer vital services to those who might otherwise miss out. Yes, you can go online almost anywhere, but in our modern society, it's basically not possible to live without going online sometimes, and libraries offer a safe, free and secure place to access knowledge without being permanently plugged into the matrix. And all of that is actually being quite narrow-minded about what libraries can offer. Public libraries across the UK currently offer such wide-ranging services as poetry nights, business mentoring, coding courses, ballet lessons, 3D printing, freelance workspaces, and much more besides, as well as, lending out books and offering a free, warm and safe space to read them. There's even an International Libraries Award Fund hosted by George Soros, apparently. Explain that, conservative. Yet, regardless of all the possibilities for libraries, their potential commercial benefits and the crucial services they offer, they continue to close across the UK.
Well, I talk to librarians all the time. It's a mixture of horror and sadness, I feel angry and sad. I feel sangry about it, that it's happened. And it's a soft target, isn't it? If you close libraries, nobody dies. That's what they think.
The Public Libraries and Museums Act 1964 places a duty on councils to provide a comprehensive and efficient library service. But, unluckily for libraries, the terms comprehensive and efficient are often very much up for debate. So, when the cut sacks come swinging, libraries are often one of the first things on the block. What also doesn't help is that apparently a large part of public perception is that libraries are a fringe service only used by the traditionalist middle classes who can afford alternatives anyway, when the data shows that this is not the case. Their availability is actually more vital in disadvantaged areas, and it is in these places that they are more likely to be cut. As the data shows, or at least as far as I can see, libraries have a modest but significant degree of use across the country and across demographics. Despite willing to pay out hundreds of thousands of pounds for barely used phone apps or single executive salaries, the council considers the plebs' convenient access to a warm, safe and convenient space for free knowledge not that important. Of course, Mayor Perry has promised that the libraries could reopen as community spaces, if volunteer groups can be found. But the process to find those groups didn't start until after the decision was already made to close the libraries. And according to a source who spoke to Inside Croydon, those community groups were offered £10,000 a year in help from the council for 2 years. £20,000 to run a library, when, as the council have said in their own reports, they cost around £100,000 a year to run. Now, Croydon's volunteers are an incredible group of people, but with the best will in the world, asking for £100,000 worth of labour from the community when we already pay record council tax for public services is maybe a little bit too much for Jeanette with a shovel and some can-do spirit to deal with.
It was evident from the public consultation that the physical library buildings hold much significance for the community. So let me be clear, I want these buildings to continue to be used by the community and complemented by outreach services in these areas,
said Mayor Jason Perry earlier this year. But despite what he says, he's only offering £10,000 a year to help keep any of the libraries open, which is about 1/7 of his official salary and about 1/20 of Council CEO Catherine Kurzweil's. Clearly, you don't want that much then, do you, Jason? Despite Mayor Perry very much wanting to keep them open, all 4 libraries closed on November 8th. One thing from Croydon Council's 2022 assets report was quite telling in this regard. Libraries were given their own category, separate from income-producing assets, community assets and corporate buildings. To be fair, in a council that is run like a spectacularly inefficient business with corporate assets and CEOs, the idea of investing in a free service that doesn't make immediate economic returns for anyone that might vote for you seems like a bad idea. But when you consider that it's our taxpayers' money funding it, and all the other benefits and services that libraries offer alongside long-term economic gains. On another note, a simple Google search reveals headline after headline across the UK of old public libraries being closed and then sold for developers to build, you guessed it, flats. Surely that's got nothing to do with it, eh? Who knows? Guess we'll find out in a couple of years. And in the meantime, keep watching the Kronks.